Church do to address the rampant problem of Christian men who struggle with or are addicted to pornography? Do you recommend any ministries devoted to this, and how prevalent is this in the church today? Am I the only man who struggles? It's not just a rampant problem of Christian men, it's a rampant problem of Christian pastors that we've come to discover, sadly. So how would you men respond to that?
We may all need to speak to this. I'll just simply say it's a rampant problem of Christians. It is primarily a problem of Christian men on the one hand. On the other hand, you may have seen USA Today yesterday mentioning that these romance novels are now exponentially selling more as women, including some Christian women, are reading them because they can read them on their digital devices without having racy covers sitting around the family room. And those, we could go into all kinds of explanations about why those two different forms of pornography are very different. One of them very romantic, one of them very visual. You can figure all that out. But the reality is that this is one of the most insidious moral developments of our age. And it has to do with the fact that pornography has a very long history. If you've been to Pompeii, you know that. But it wasn't available to everyone all the time at a click of the mouse. That's what's different. And so we have lowered all of the defenses of a culture, not only technologically, but we did it morally before we did it technologically. And we could talk about this ad infinitum, other than to say that this is bringing absolute devastation to the church, to families, to marriages, to young lives, old lives. Someone told me the other day they had to put a filter in a nursing home, a filter on the computer system, because it doesn't go away. It just doesn't go away. I was asked about a ministry. We deal with all kinds of young people in our church and obviously in other circles as well. And we use a ministry called Setting Captives Free, which has been very, very helpful to many men, especially struggling with this.
One thing I would add is if you're a man struggling with this and you're really concerned about it, if you have a computer, get rid of it. Because nothing can be as valuable in the internet that can outweigh the destructive consequences of this.
You know, I spoke at a couple of Legionnaire conferences back. We did the pre-conference on the Christian in the digital age, and I spoke about parents with young people. One of the points I make is that according to a recent Kaiser Family Foundation study, over 80% of teenagers in America have unrestricted internet access in their bedrooms. You know, that is insane. You put a 15-year-old kid in his bedroom with unrestricted internet access, you know, would you just take him into, you know, a certain part of a certain town where you knew things happened and just let him loose? You know, what kind of parenting is that? According to a recent Kaiser Family Foundation study, over 80% of teenagers in America have unrestricted internet access in their bedrooms. You know, that is insane. You put a 15-year-old kid in his bedroom with unrestricted internet access, you know, would you just take him into, you know, a certain part of a certain town where you knew things happened and just let him loose? And what kind of parenting is that? I suggest that when it comes to a computer in the home, where you especially have children and teenagers, the computer needs to be in the kitchen where mom is cutting carrots on the counter with a sharp knife. It has a wonderful effect in limiting what goes on the computer.
Can I just say also as a practical word, I know some seminarians in our seminary I have no idea how this happens, but have connected their computers to one another so they can hold one another accountable for the sites that are being visited. And this is another way to really help one another out, to know that someone is aware of what you're doing.
A program like Covenant Eyes helps a lot of guys to do that, because there's true accountability. Everywhere they go is known by some Christian brother to whom they're accountable, or a wife.
Yes. Just one sentence, R.C., just a dominant vision of the holiness of God, which I know from the book that you wrote. If men would be overwhelmed with the awesomeness of the absolute, unrivaled, unadulterated holiness of God, I think that has such a sanctifying effect, and the fear of God rightly cultivated in the heart.
That's the longest single sentence I've heard since I've been in Germany.